mind showing off our dirty caboose.
Here we are in the back end of the caboose, and I've noticed that there are some things of interest here that I would like for you gentlemen to explain to us. What is this potbelly stove? Was that typical in cabooses?
Yes, every caboose had a pot-bellied stove, and generally they were fired with coal and sometimes wood, depending upon what kind of material they had and how much they could burn. But yes, every caboose had a pot-bellied stove.
It was the main way to heat the caboose in the wintertime.
Well, and they also would have them a coffee pot and heat up some coffee.
Could
cook a meal on it. Yeah.
And just for general heating purposes, it was pretty easy to fire and to maintain.
Yeah.
It had a little handle that you'd turn an ash pan, and it would drop into a pan where you could get rid of the ashes. And they were very durable, and you had to be careful about putting too much wood in there because it would run you out of the caboose. It'd make it too hot.
Just to show you, this is where you put the fuel in, and then the ashes were shook down into a pan.
Well, where would they dispose of the ashes?
Well,
along the right of way.
Along the right of way.
Yeah. They had to make sure that there were no live coals in there. They didn't want to set fire to the
right of way.
Right of way. That wouldn't work out well.
Yeah. But generally the ashes were cold by the time they threw them out.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing there's a desk over here. Explain
Yes.
to me what that was used for.
Yes, this was the conductor's desk. This is where he would sit and process the way bills of the train as they were either preparing to go down the track or were on their way. And basically the bills had one bill for each car, and he would record on there what was in the car, whether it was loaded, whether it was empty, and its destination, its weight, and all that. And if they had to set out any cars along the way, they would separate the bills of the cars that they were going to be setting out, and they would put those in a box at the station where they set them out, along the way. And if they had to pick up cars along the way, then they would basically reverse the process. They'd couple into the cars they were picking up, put them into the consist of the train, pick up the way bills, and then the conductor would sit here and process them, put them in the order in which they were on the train. And then when he was all done with his paperwork, then he would climb up in the cupola and join the rear brakeman to continue on with watching the train as the train proceeded down the track.
Well, what kind of information was on the way bill? Did it have a bill of lading as to what was in the other cars?
Yes. Each car had in this way bill, it listed exactly what it was. Like say if it were lumber, or if it was a tank car and it had oil in it of some kind, and it would tell what kind of oil, how much it weighed, that sort of thing. So that way, whenever it came to its destination, the yard master or train master could look at this way bill and say, okay, this car, it's an oil tank car, it has crude oil in it, or it has corn syrup in it, or something like that. And they had to make sure that everything was correct, so they didn't deliver a car that had something that shouldn't be delivered to a certain location. They didn't want to drop off a carload of crude oil to a plant that made soda pop.